You are listening to the Space-Tastic Mysteries podcast. We are continuing Anna Gale Lyne's fourth novel in the Jaguar and Peacock series, Smoke and Mirrors. A deadly sniper stalks the stars. Aboard the Freedom Alliance's frontline StarVessels, crew members are being picked off one by one, the killer striking with chilling precision. When a member of Colonel Jessa Master's team is critically wounded, the threat becomes personal and impossible to ignore. Jessa is no stranger to danger, but this case rattles her. The sniper's methods seem hauntingly familiar, echoing a nearly forgotten nightmare from 9 years ago at the Freedom Alliance admission office, a tragedy she has tried to bury. Is it the same killer, back to settle unfinished business? Or is she chasing shadows conjured by her own haunted memory? As paranoia spreads through the fleet, Jessa must unravel a mystery that spans years and light years, navigating political intrigue, old grudges, and a ruthless enemy who always seems one step ahead. Stopping the sniper means confronting her own past and catching a ghost before he kills again. This is Episode 2, The Briefing. If you have not subscribed, do so now, and hit the bell to be notified of new episodes.
My office doors chimed. "Come in," I answered automatically. My mind still reeling from my visit with Bree. She had come through the surgery with flying colors, but she was still unconscious. She looked lifeless and pale, almost as if someone sucked the life out of her body with a vacuum. She is a fighter, I reminded myself as I sank into the chair at the head of the table. I instructed maintenance to move a table and 4 chairs into the large empty space in my office between the window seat and the couch. If anyone could survive this, Bree could. She had the will of 40 horses. What she set her mind to, she would accomplish. "You okay?" the familiar voice of my husband questioned, taking the chair next to me. His voice brought me back to reality. I surveyed him, starting at his head and went as far as I could until my eyes hit the table. My heart pounded as I spied him. His lean, muscular physique filled out his black flight coveralls. Many medals and ribbons added color to his otherwise dull uniform. He wore his uniform more frequently since taking the position as my first officer. I waited for his cappuccino-colored eyes to lock with mine before I uttered, "I'm fine. I just came back from seeing Bree." "How is she?" General Graham interrupted in a voice as lifeless as a 7-day-old corpse. For the first time, I raked my eyes around the table, noticing Graham sitting across from me. He looked considerably more rested. His hair still wet from his apparent shower. His uniform ironed and not a wrinkle could be found, even to a trained eye such as mine. Then my eyes fell upon Colin. He sat across from Nate, between General Graham and me. Returning my gaze to Graham, I replied, "Dr. Manning seems to think she is showing signs of improvement, that she will make a full recovery." "I sense a but coming up," Graham observed, touching his fingers together in a judicial fashion, still holding my gaze. "But she is still unconscious. Dr. Manning is the best doctor in the Alliance, and if he thinks she will make a full recovery, I have to trust his judgment." Graham folded his hands in front of him. "What is important right now is catching the sniper. That's why I created this," I noted, rising from my seat. I progressed to the far wall of my office, the one that all of us faced. I punched a few buttons on the device next to it until the wall displayed a schematic of the 11 attacked StarVessels. I pointed to a line on the screen. "Now, as we all know, this is the border that divides the Freedom Alliance territory," I began, motioning below the line, from territory that the Crimson Fleet claims, pointing above the line. Now 7 of our StarVessels are lined up along the border. The Liberty being center ship. Then behind the first row is another row of reinforcement vessels. I traced my finger along the screen. Our sniper started at the east side of the second row and hit 1 person on each vessel. Counting them off on my fingers, I recited each person and their star vessel: Lieutenant Bo Salmon from the Jackson, Captain Mark Colby from the Churchill, Lieutenant Lauren Braden from the Freedom, Lieutenant Todd Carter from the Jefferson, Captain Allison Blackman from the Powell, Major Christine Powers from the Courage and Captain Jack Scott from the Carter. "But that only accounts for 7 of the attacks," Nate protested, folding his arms on the table. I thrust out my hands, palms up, then bunched them into fists, shaking them in Nate's direction. I glanced at the screen, then back at the group. Then he started on the first row. Again from the east. Major Alex Phillips from the Adams, Lieutenant Marcy Natale from the Eisenhower, Bree from the Kennedy, and now Lieutenant Kohler from the Liberty. So, he has hit the StarVessels in succession from east to west, Colin concluded, twirling his stylus, the instrument that he used to write on his quan pad, in the air. That isn't very smart. I mean, you have only been on the case how many hours? And you have already figured out his pattern. Graham looked at Colin, and as if ignoring him, Graham glanced at Nate, then me. He has the same MO in every shooting. Each shooting happened outside the person's quarters with no witnesses, 2 shots in the front with a typical Kraken series precision Gauss sniper. You said that the first 9 died, and only Bree and Kohler have managed to survive. Colin leaned back in his chair. Do we know why Bree and Kohler survived and not the others? The first 9 were treated by their StarVessel doctors. The last 2 were treated by the ice droid, as Pete calls Dr. Manning, Nate answered, putting his hands behind his back. Evidently, the darts entered the bodies very close to the heart or major organs, and because the ice droid is an android, he was able to do more precise surgery than the human doctors. I nodded and walked back to my seat. After sitting, I continued, I have ordered the Liberty to be locked down. No one in or out of this vessel without our consent. I peered over at Colin. I want someone posted at every travel tram and exit. But I don't have enough officers. I realize that, so I have come up with 2 options. A. We can borrow security officers from the nearby vessels, or B. We can call in every agent within a 50-mile radius to swarm the place, I explained to Colin, placing my hand on my stomach. I am leaning toward option A. I don't want to involve any more agents than we have to right now. Colin made the necessary calls on his commlet, recruiting security officers from the Eisenhower, Adams, Kennedy, Jefferson, Freedom, and Churchill. After that was done, he looked at me, now what do we do? Reaching into the jacket of my coveralls, I took out the Overseer, a long black device that looked similar to a 21st century television remote control. I set the Overseer to show us level hotel, corridor tree from 0930 to 0934 hours this morning, programming the Overseer footage to be shown on the terminal on the wall I used to show the StarVessels at the front lines. All eyes focused on it as level hotel, corridor tree came into view. It appeared empty, almost like a ghost town. It seemed so eerily silent that I expected a tumbleweed to come rolling by at any moment. I watched too many of those old westerns from the 21st century, I noted. Great-granddaddy Strazzer's influence, of course. He collected all kinds of westerns. He filled a whole room to the brim with just westerns from the 21st century. Being a true Strazzer, though, he arranged the westerns on a shelf in alphabetical order. Swish! The travel tram doors opened, and Lieutenant Kohler walked toward his quarters. I searched it for the shooter. I saw a man dressed in black turn the corner. The man lifted his weapon and fired 1 shot, then another. There was no way for Kohler to have seen him since the shooter remained at least 2,000 feet away. Kohler fell to the ground. A surprised look on his face. I froze the frame, glancing around at the people sitting at the table. I couldn't get a clear picture of what any of them thought from the expressions on their faces, except Nate. I could see the wheels of his mind spinning. He wanted to know who this man was, and how we could stop him. I cleared my throat, grabbing their attention. When their eyes focused on me, I ventured, what we have here is a man that doesn't want to be seen. Now we can take the logs of all the ships he has attacked and verify who has come and gone from each vessel, cross-referencing the names. That's a good place to start, General Graham agreed, smiling his "I'm very impressed" grin. Leaning forward, he rested his elbows on the table, intertwining his fingers. You have my permission to obtain those files from the other vessels. I also think that we should monitor his activities through the Overseer to see if anything leads us to him, Nate provided, leaning forward too. Maybe by monitoring him we could prevent another shooting. Graham nodded, resting his chin on his intertwined fingers. His eyes moved to Colin. And what do you think, Major Vincent? I think, and this may seem elementary, but if we locate the connection between our victims, We can find the shooter and his motive, Colin responded, looking a bit nervous as he bit on his bottom lip. I was thinking the same thing, I commented, shooting Colin a reassuring glance. Under which, he seemed to physically relax. And there is a connection, I added, turning to Graham. As remote as it may be, we must find it. It might be the key we are looking for. It sounds like you all have this under control, Graham declared, gripped his armrests and pulled himself out of his chair, so I will stay out of your way. I put my hand up, clutching his arm. I stared at him a moment before expressing, "Are you sure you are feeling all right?" He pushed my arm away. "Ever since I've got here, all you want to do is mother me." Nate rose halfway from his seat, anger rippling in the brown pools of his eyes. I knew that if I didn't stop him that he would cause a scene, more than a scene, he might actually, unintentionally, hurt Graham. I put my hand up to stop him. "No, Jag, let me take care of this." I lifted myself out of my chair and walked around the table. All eyes were focused on me. I stopped right behind Colin's chair, grabbing the back of his seat. "You are right, General, we do have everything under control. Jag and I are very capable agents. We are the stuff legends are made of. New agents pray to be trained by one or both of us." I continued my trek around the table. "You haven't been out in the field in such a long time. I don't blame you for being scared. I probably would be too, if I were you." I caught Nate whispering to a panicking Colin, who must have thought I took leave of my senses. I drew in a deep breath as I placed my hand on my stomach in an attempt to calm the rambunctious infants within. Frankly, maybe it is better this way. This is a dangerous situation, and we can't afford to have someone trying to get reacquainted with his instincts slowing us down. Now, don't you think that you are being hard on Graham? Maybe he isn't scared. Maybe he isn't as sharp as he used to be, Nate interjected, pushing his chair back and standing up. He tapped his temple, adding, "You know, as you get to that certain age, your mind isn't as alert as it used to be." "I know what you both are trying to do," Graham interrupted, staring at me, then Nate and back to me again. The warmth of his eyes felt as if it burrowed through me, that he would uncover any secrets I might be hiding. Good thing I didn't keep secrets from Graham and Nate. Not that I knew about, at least. But it isn't going to work. You haven't had to watch as someone you love lies in a hospital bed, not knowing whether they are going to live or die. Nate, Colin, and I shared amused glances. I bit my tongue to keep from laughing so hard that tears would have flew from my eyes. Instead, I pinched my eyes together as I stood behind my chair. I rubbed my chin with my hand. Maybe my memory is lapsing again, but didn't Reggie lie in a hospital bed, clinging to life, when she contracted a rare form of meningitis a few years ago? Didn't we all, Ben, you, Colin, Joey and I, sit by her bed day and night? Didn't the doctor tell me that he had never seen anything like it? Nate nodded. Your memory is perfect. I remember how frail she looked. I had never been so scared in my life, until the car crash, that is. When you were lying in the Andrews Freedom Alliance Hospital, unconscious, knowing that I had already lost Ben and Joshua, I prayed that I wouldn't lose you too. What about all the times that Ben, Nate, and you ended up in the hospital after an assignment? All the times that Joey and I have had to sit by your beds, comforting Reggie, asked Colin, tilting his head, a scowl crossed his face. I didn't realize how much we had come to depend upon Joey and Colin to pick up the pieces with Reggie when we were injured in the line of duty. Now there was Remy and soon, Lizzie and Danny. Okay, you all do know what it is like, but I am still not going to help you, Graham answered, turning his back on the table. I just can't, he said in a barely audible tone. Then in a shaky voice, he continued, what if something happened to Bree while I was assisting in this investigation? I could never forgive myself for not being by her side. I moved toward him, touching his shoulder with my hand. I replied in a soft tone, don't you see? Bree is exactly why you have to help us track down the sniper. You know that she would want you to help us instead of fawning over her. If the roles were reversed, it is what she would do. He remained silent for a few moments. Every second that ticked by convinced me that I hadn't gotten through to him. While searching my brain for another technique, I felt him grab my hand. I hate when my agents are smarter than me, he started, spinning around to face me. You are right. Bree would be helping you track down the sniper. Then you will help us, I asked, moving my tongue into my cheek. You really think there is a connection that ties all these victims together? He wondered, relocating his hand around my waist, ushering me back to the table. Definitely. I sat back down in my chair, watching as Graham returned to his seat and sank into it. I have a gut feeling. Glancing around the table, exchanging a knowing look with Nate, Graham concluded, that's good enough for us. How shall we proceed? This is still you and Jag's thing. I am just here to lend a hand where needed. Okay, then, Nate intervened, jumping to his feet. Colin, obtain the files from the other vessels and start cross-referencing the names. I want a list of anyone who visited all of the vessels. No matter how unlikely they may seem. Jag and I will try to find the needle in the haystack, the connection between all of our victims. Graham, I have a job for you that you can do while sitting by Bree's bedside, I interjected, shooting Graham my, I have a brilliant idea, smile. You can monitor the vessel's activities through the overseer. Any security breaches, suspicious activity, comings and goings. Normally, I would have Colin do it, but I think you would be better suited for it at the moment. No problem. Graham gave me a grateful gaze. Like I said, this is you and Jag's thing. We will convene again here tomorrow at 0900 hours, Nate concluded, rounding the table. He offered me his arm. I rose to my feet, linked arms with him and headed out the doors.